Okay, so we run the ifconfig command. This will give us the IP address and subnet mask. And what we'll also do is run a root command, which will give us our default gateway address and our network address. And we can also see the subnet mask being 255.255.255.0, which is a Class C network or a /24 network. If you're new to hacking and don't know what the subnet mask is here, it'll be worthwhile looking into subnetting tutorials. I don't want to go into too much detail here, but if it's still unclear, just know that whenever you see a subnet mask of 255.255.255.0, it's a 24 network, a /24 network. Now we have our network IP address range, we can perform a ping scan on the whole range. So I'll enter Nmap, the SN switch, the network ID, followed by /24. We'll use the SN switch for the no port scan, which is what it's short for, because we're looking for hosts only first. And I'll use the /24, which represents the Class C network, as I explained earlier. So I'll run the command. So running this will send an ICMP echo request packets to all the IP addresses in the range to discover which hosts are up and responding to the ping request without performing a full port scan. It will then provide a list of active hosts. Traffics within the same network segment often operate at layer 2 of the OSI. This includes communication between devices in the same physical network. Any traffic that needs to cross routers or subnet boundaries in a local network segment operates at layer 3. Because they do not perform a full port scan, it's relatively stealthy and they don't generate too much traffic or noise. Just to add, if we didn't use these scans first and just scan for open ports on every host without knowing if the hosts were up and running or not, would certainly grab some attention and create a lot of noise, a lot of unneeded, unnecessary noise. Okay, so now I'll try scanning an external network. For this I'll use a scan.nmap.org site. So I'm still using the SN switch here to discover the hosts and not scan ports, as this will not generate too much traffic or noise. Scanning an external network primarily operates at layer 3 of the OSI model. So if scanning the external network does not work, it may be that there's a firewall or filtering device that blocks the ICMP traffic. This would prevent both types of scan from successfully reaching the target hosts. So in this case we would use Nmap, PA80, the SN switch and the address. So I'll run this command. The PA80 specifies that Nmap should send a TCP ACK packet to port 80 of the target host to determine if the host is responsive and has an open port on port 80. As discussed earlier, the SN performs a ping sweep to determine which hosts are online. The P80 scan operates at layer 4 of the OSI. Okay, so going back to the first scan we did on the internal network, running the internal scan returned 4 hosts that are live, one of which is my machine. We can now take the 3 hosts and scan them for open ports. We can scan them all individually, or we could scan all of these with one command. This is useful when you have a large number of target hosts to scan. First we need to create a file using nano. Type nano and what you wish to call a file. I'll call my file host.txt. We'll press enter and this takes us to a file we have created. In this file we'll paste the IP addresses of the hosts. Press Ctrl and O and you will see the name of the file at the bottom, and then press enter to confirm. Then press Ctrl and X to exit. We can then use ls to list our directory and we can see the file hostlist.txt. We can also check the contents of this file with cat host.txt, and there they are. Okay, so now we've created the host.txt file, we can use the following command to run a scan on all the IP addresses within that file. So it's nmap, the IL switch with a capital L. The IL switch is short for input from list. and that list being the host.txt that we just created. As you can see from the results, it scanned for ports on all 3 hosts. So we can also scan for specific ports. For example, if I want to scan for port 80, we can use Nmap-P80 and use our host list again, and that will scan for port 80. We can also scan for multiple specific ports, such as port 80 again for HTTP, and say 23 for Telnet. We would simply add a comma followed by the additional port to scan. To scan for UDP, we will type nmap-s, capital U, and then the insert from list, and then the host.txt file. The SU switch is short for UDP scan. UDP is commonly used for services like DNS and DHCP. Unlike TCP, which uses three-way handshake to establish connections, UDP is connectionless, so identifying open UDP ports can be more challenging. Something to bear in mind is the UDP scans can be both stealthy and noisy. Okay, so now we have found the host and the open ports. Now we want to know what service and version is running on the hosts. We can use sudo nmap, the SV switch, and SV switch is short for service version. We can now see the additional columns on the versions next to the service column. This is useful information. We could use this information to Google vulnerabilities for the services and versions. Knowing the version is the pen tester's key. It unlocks a network's secrets, exposing potential vulnerabilities. To find out the operating system type, we can run sudo nmap, the O switch, followed by the IP address, or in our case, the IL switch host.txt file. The O switch is short for operating system. We can see from the results that it displays the operating systems for each. So after running this, we can see that the first machine is running Windows 10. The following machine shows a Linux operating system. Scan timing templates offer different predefined timing profiles. For example, I'll show you the fastest scan against the test box on the Nmap website. The T option, also known as timing template, is used to control the speed and the aggressiveness of the scans. I'll enter 5 for the fastest. You can see it completes in 1.63 seconds. I will change the time to T3, which is the default scan speed. Here you can see the scan completes in 1.38 seconds. These are quick scans, so you won't see much difference between the two here. I'm showing you the fastest for the sake of the video, as the slower scans can take considerably longer. However, slower timing templates, T0 or T1 or T2, are designed to be more discreet and less likely to be detected by intrusion detection systems. I'll run a T2 scan, however this will take quite some time. So what I'll do here is I'll let it run a little bit, and then I'll press enter, which will give us a status of what the time remaining, which will give you an idea of how long these scans take, in comparison to T3 or T5 for example. Okay, pressing enter for the status shows us that there's 6 minutes and 25 seconds remaining on this scan. So as you can see, it's considerably longer. Okay, decoy scans. So I'm going to open Wireshark and keep it side by side for this one, just so you can see what's going on when we run these scans. So for decoy scans, we put sudo nmap IP address, the D switch for decoy, and RND for random, then we would put a number for the amount of decoy IPs we want to appear. So I'll put 15 in this example. What happens with this scan? Anyone looking into the logs will be presented with our IP address along with 15 other decoy IP addresses, so it's not obvious which IP is the source of the actual scan. I'll run the scan, and as you can see, Wireshark is showing 15 additional IP addresses as the source IP of the scan. Amongst these 15 IP addresses, mine will be listed. I'll just search for that now, and there it is. Spoofing MAC address. So we'll enter sudo nmap, the IP address, followed by spoof -mac, followed by 0. The 0 is to randomize the MAC address number, or instead of the 0, you could type the MAC address you want to use. I'll scan a machine now, so you can see the MAC address it shows. Random host scan. So I'll run the scan, and looking at the results, we can see the first IP being 7 and the second being 5, ending with 1. I'll run this scan again. As you can see, the order has changed. The reason to randomize the order of your scan is performed is because it's easy for intrusion detection systems to detect and easier for security analysts to look at the default scan would scan each host in sequence order. This scan mixes up by randomizing the order. Fragmented scan. So for this one, again, I'll open Wireshark side by side just so you can see what's happening with this scan. So with fragmented scan, this is where we fragment our packets into smaller packets with the hope of avoiding intrusion detection systems. This is not guaranteed to avoid detection, however it works in some scenarios. I'll enter sudo nmap IP address and then the F switch at the end, and F switch is short for fragment. You can immediately see in Wireshark the packets fragmented. Nmap script sources. To access our script sources, we are going to go to the scripts directory. So change directory, user, share, nmap scripts. We are going to list the contents using ls. Here you can see all the different scripts available. So within the scripts directory, you'll find Nmap scripting engine scripts, which are various Nman scripts written in the Lua programming language. Categories. Some categories are brute, vuln, discovery, auth. You'll find custom scripts, where you can create your own NSE scripts and store them in a directory. You'll find updates and community contributions. You'll also find script documentation. Each script typically comes with documentation that explains its purpose, usage, and the required or optional parameters. Okay, so using the scripts, I'll show you some examples of using the category scripts first. So the version category. When using this, it doesn't really specify a script, but triggers an Nmap version detection mechanism. Nmap will attempt to determine the service and version running on each port it discovers. You can run scripts simultaneously too. You should use a comma to separate the two script categories in your Nmap command like this. So I've included vuln. Vuln is another category script. So using the vuln category doesn't specify a script, but enables Nmap to use a built-in vulnerability detection capabilities. As you can see, the results in here cover a lot. There's more than you would normally find here, as I'm scanning an intentionally vulnerable machine with lots of open ports and vulnerabilities. Here are a few more examples of category scripts on the right. Okay, now I'll run through running some NSE scripts. So I'll start with the FTP on my list. And as you can see, that one's come up vulnerable, showing vulnerable. Next I'll do the SMB script. And that one's showing as false. Next I'll do the SSL script. And that one's showing as vulnerable. Now I'll do the HTTP SQL injection, and this comes up with some results here. And finally I'll do the SMTP, and you can see that this is not vulnerable. And also I'll do a multiple scan using 2 of them, so the last 2 we did, just to show you that we have the results of both the scans in one scan. So we have the HTTP one there. We have the other scan that's showing not vulnerable that we just did last there. So that's using both scans in one scan. Okay, that's all in this video. Thanks for watching. I hope you've picked something up or found the video useful. This is my first video, so if you like the content, please like and subscribe. Thanks very much.